You know, when I saw the numbers for Indigenous homelessness, I was floored by how they compare to homelessness in the general population. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's 1 in 15 for Indigenous people in Canada will experience homelessness at some point in their life.
Compared
to Canadians is 1 in 128. So those numbers are huge. And then if you look at like the percentage of Indigenous peoples in the city, they make up maybe 1 to 3%. And in many cases, they're representing 30 to 40% of the homeless. So these numbers are huge, right?
And what's your best explanation for that gap?
Well, it's in the way that Indigenous peoples have been dispossessed of their lands, the way that their homes were targeted by state policy over time, and the way that the funding is siloed. So it comes for on-reserve housing from the feds, from the federal government. And so people also travel for access to work and education. These are things that regular Canadians take for granted, and people from the north who are just trying to get health care come to the city and in the process to become homeless.
Can I ask you about your personal story? Because I mean, you have firsthand experience with both of those issues. I mean, being Indigenous and being homeless.
Yes. I cycled in and out of homelessness for 10 years, and it was in the way that my family was dispossessed of our land, and we had what's called intergenerational trauma within our family that eventually saw my family dissolve and raised elsewhere in Brampton with my grandparents. But that initial trauma led to a lot of experimentation with drugs and whatnot in my early teens, which led to my homelessness in adulthood. And so you really have to look at the whole picture of my family's history to understand why I became homeless in my 20s.
And I'm trying to imagine what your life would have looked like while you were homeless. Can you describe that? Because this neighborhood was home for you, right?
Yeah. It's all around here. I have memories of places that I've been and slept and was traveling through. I could show you if you want.
Yeah. What are you talking about? So what
up here, I used to stay on the roof here. There's
this building right here.
Yeah, right here. This used to be a club, and I used to be able to climb up from the back, up on top, and stay on the roof, because it's safer to stay on the roof than it is on the ground level when you're homeless, right? And if you look around here, there's all kinds of clues. Like if you look right in here, there's blankets stashed away. The way that people use the geography is different when you're homeless, right? I remember I used to come here and sell stuff when I needed money, and so all through here, although it's changed quite a bit from when I was here, there's still a lot of the same things that are going on, right?
What's different about the neighborhood?
This is now a parking lot here. This is it's a Joe Fresh and our Loblaws now. Up here, I used to stay at, there was clubs here in the 90s that I used to stay at when I was like first homeless. I had to pay the entrance fee and be able to stay for 3 or 4 days, sleep on the floor, all through here. There used to be a dive bar that I could wash up over here. Right down the street there's a McDonald's where I could stay at night if it was really cold. They don't disturb you, and you could wash up at Dundas and Bathurst there.
Does it feel a little bit surreal to be back here and to see all the old places?
Yeah, definitely. My stomach does flips, and I feel a little nervous and stressed out, and I can't help that. That's a physical reaction to being down in these places.
And a lot must have changed, but a lot has stayed the same.
Yeah, well, it's gentrified quite a bit, but the homeless haven't gone anywhere. They're all around, right? You just have to know where to look. Some of them are visible, but the majority aren't.
How hard was it to live life that way?
You're constantly stressed out. Sleep it solves a lot of your stress issues, and so you're hyper stressed all the time. Worried about food, and if you do know where food is, you have to travel a long distance to get it. You're always worried about your stuff because there's no place to stash it that's safe. It's just, I would say, stressful. That's the defining feature of it all.
And how did you pull yourself out of that?
Well, I use the justice system as a vehicle off the streets, a way to get into rehab kind of instantly. That was one of the ways that I got the help that I needed, because I tried for many years, but all the rehabs had long waiting lists. And so I just couldn't access them because I didn't have a place to access them from, right?
It must have been pretty hard.
Yeah, it was hard to realize that nobody really cared. That was the hardest part. And then like to be almost nameless in a lot of ways, you know? You're traumatized by the poverty of just having to move from place to place for your own personal safety, always trying to find food, trying to make appointments that you don't have transportation funds to get to. So it's very difficult just to navigate the city, you know, constantly, and never having the amount of rest that you need to be, you know, healthy and operating at like 100%.
So what does this country need to do?
The country needs to change the way that it looks at housing and property and stop thinking about it as a way to profit and realign it back to like seeing it as a dwelling or a place of home.
Because for you, a home means what exactly?
Home is love. Home is healthy social relations. It's a place to, it's a dwelling attached to a physical space, but like primarily I see it as like healthy social relations where one can flourish. And you need a dwelling, but you also need purpose and you need love. And to me, that's the all-encompassing of what a home is.
Jesse, wonderful to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too, sir.